Good evening. You're here for a city council meeting. I hope you knew that. It is Tuesday, January 21st, 2020, and we'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom, Modrick, Roberts, Stroman, Armstrong, Lewis, Lehman, Drury, Evans, Drew. We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And next on the agenda, we'll have our invocation by Pastor Randy Phipps, and following the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you for your service to our community. And as a man of prayer, I'd invite you to join with me as I pray God's blessing over this activity tonight. Father, we thank you. We are grateful and appreciative of the life that we get to live, particularly and especially as citizens of Rapid City in the great state of South Dakota in the United States of America. What a privilege it is to be able to gather freely tonight, Lord God, to find ourselves being about public business, Lord God. And we know you are concerned greatly and you care for each of us. Father, I pray specifically over our city council, Lord God, over each member personally. Lord Jesus, that you would bless them, guide them, lead them, direct them, over our mayor, Lord God, over the wisdom and discernment that he would exercise, that our council together, Lord God, as they publicly live out their lives before these citizens, Lord God. Father, thank you for blessing them, giving them favor in all the decisions they need to make. And Lord God, thank you for helping them to be honorable and to, Father, give you glory as we, as citizens as well, Lord God, choose to worship you and praise you and ask your blessing on our city. In Jesus' name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And now we'll have the adoption of the agenda. This is a time when the council may adopt the agenda as written, or they may make certain modifications to it. So would there be a motion from the council? Second. Motion to adopt the council by Drury and a second by, was it Roberts? Yes. Second by Roberts. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And now, first item on the agenda, a community update from Ron Jeffries of the Black Hills Stock, on the behalf of the Black Hills Stock Show. I see that he's not here tonight, so we'll skip this item.
and brevity will be my strongest point tonight.
You've said that before. Take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Appreciate this opportunity to talk to you about one of Rapid City's great events, the Black Hills Stock Show and Rodeo, with official dates starting January 31st through February 8th. I will let you know that if you've been out at the event center at the fairgrounds the last couple of weeks, since the 17th we've been hosting events, a number of horse activities that have been taking place out there, and that's just due to not having enough time or space within the actual calendar dates of the show to take place. I did bring with me three of my board members tonight. I brought Machu Sarah and Jason Solomon and John Roberts as three of our board members, and I appreciate their volunteer service. Thank you. I just wanted to give you a brief update. We are super excited about this year's 62nd annual Black Hills Stock Show. There's been some changes. We've been working hard as a staff and a board and a group of volunteers about how to continually improve the product that we deliver to this community. And one of the big changes that we did this year is we took the Truck Defender horse sale. It's normally had a preview at the fairgrounds where they would show the horses and ride them and show off all their abilities. And then we would trailer them back over to the Civic Center and hold the sale at the Civic Center. Well, it's a bit problematic to load and unload and load and unload and load and unload again to get through that sale of one horse. And with the construction going on, we made the decision this year to look for growth in that program by moving that event to the James Kierstead Event Center in its entirety. Now with that comes opportunity. And so for the first time, we are one of the only major livestock shows in the nation that has not had a youth livestock show. And with that space that's now been vacated by the horse sale, we have been able to bring in our first youth livestock show to the Black Hills Stock Show and Rodeo. We are very confident with the additions at the stock show and availability of additional space that we need to bring more people to town to continue to make that event grow. And the way that we are sure people will invest in coming to this is to bring the families in. And you do that by getting the youth. So we're starting with our first livestock show, youth livestock show ever. We are quite confident in our first year that it will be bigger than any of the single breeds of the Hubbard Feed Supreme Row. So the first year of this youth show will be bigger than any other breed that we show throughout the week. And the only thing we have to worry about is growth, which is a great concern to have. So we're excited about that. We also added one new event this year. On the first Saturday night, we added an event called a Wild Ride. Now, most of you have probably never heard about a wild ride because they don't happen a lot. But, well, except sometimes at a team roping they become a wild ride, but not by design. But a wild ride is a bronc ride in a stock saddle. So the same kind that the cowboys ride all the time, not a saddle bronc, rodeo contestant saddle, but just one you'd find in the barn. They ride that stock saddle, and the caveat is they have to come out in a costume. So we may get a firefighter or Batman or the Easter Bunny or Santa Claus or something, but they come out to make that just a really fun, wholesome family event. We're super excited about that. It's a $5,000 added deal, and we are proud to tell you that we have the first time we have 2 female entries. So we're excited about having the ladies come on board with a new event for us, and we're looking forward to a good time. We've got, I put a schedule, I think was in your packet or in your mailbox here. I've got both John, Much, and Jason that will serve as liaisons for any questions you have. They'll be available to help you see some of the new activities and events that we host, including everything from 10 breeds of cattle sales to world's smallest rodeo, which is a stick horse rodeo, to the Boots and Beer and the Chancey Williams Stampede. We appreciate the time you've given us here tonight, and look forward to seeing you all at a great event, the Black Hills Stock Show and Rodeo. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. The next item, we have a presentation, and I'd like to call up Mike Perkovich and Eric Minsma. Did I get that? Minsma. Okay. And also Morgan Falcone and Public Works Director Dale Tech.
Well, thank you, Mayor Allender, for allowing us to come this evening. Eric Minsma, I'm Mike Perkovich. I'm the administrator for the Water and Waste Funding Program in DNR. Eric was the project engineer on the East Rapid project. So if you'd let me, I'd like to have a few words here. In May of this year, or of last year, EPA asked the states to nominate recently completed drinking water state revolving fund projects for the Aquarius Award to recognize projects for exceptional focus on sustainability and protection of public health. After reviewing the award criteria, the DNR staff believed that the Rapid Cities East Water Expansion Project best exemplified the award criteria. This project was a unique partnership by Rapid City to serve more than 600 non-city residents located east of the current city limits. These residents were previously served by water sources that were inadequate, unreliable, and in many cases failed to meet EPA's safe drinking water standards. The city was able to install a larger than originally planned line to the airport to support the additional water usage. At the conclusion of the project, the City of Rapid City reconstructed all infrastructure in the existing developments, and all residents are now individual customers of Rapid City, receiving high-quality drinking water from a reliable source. Rapid City received 2 drinking water SRF loans totaling $5,126,000, and these included $3,375,000 in principal forgiveness. The city also received a $911,837 Consolidated Water Facilities Construction Program grant to help fund the project. The East Rapid City Water System Expansion Project is one of the largest water regionalization projects that Rapid City has completed. The multi-phase project was authorized and awarded in 2014 with completion in October of 2018. I'd like to recognize Morgan Falcone. Well, we contacted her about putting the nomination in, and she put together a very, very nice packet for us to submit, so thank you for that, Morgan. In November of 2019, the DNR staff was presented the Aquarius Award on behalf of Rapid City for this exceptional project, and this was one of 10 projects recognized as an exceptional project by EPA in 2019, or a drinking water project. So I'd like to thank Mayor Allender, Stacy Titus, Morgan Falcone, and all the other city staff for being excellent partners to work with on this project. I'd also like to thank Bill Lass of the Black Hills Council of Local Governments and Denise Livingston, formerly of the Rural Community Assistance Partnership, for spearheading the partnership between the city and all the various water systems. Lastly, I'd like to recognize CTEC Engineering and Banner and Associates for the engineering services provided to assure a successful project. So, congratulations to Rapid City, and on behalf of the South Dakota DNR and EPA, I would like to present this award plaque to the city.
Oh, yes. We're going to start public comment now, and this is a time for members of the public to speak on items not on the agenda, and no items will be added to the agenda unless there's unanimous consent of the City Council. But moreover, this is a time for citizens to approach the podium here, take 3 minutes of their time for a general public comment. And Eric, are you speaking on an item on the agenda or not?
Speaking in the general public comment.
Okay, then our first speaker, Eric Heikus.
Mayor and members of the council, you have to forgive me if it's on the agenda. I don't believe it is, but I understand that there is some exploration considered in the Jenny Gulch area upstream from us. It's very appropriate that we just awarded a drinking water award downstream of us for appropriate reasons. There's consideration for exploration in the Jenny Gulch area to happen. Some drilling to see if there's presence of valuable minerals such as gold, as I understand it. The exploration is a pretty intensive process, as I understand. I don't know all the details of what's about to happen or what's fully proposed, other than the fact that I am vehemently opposed to this exploration because the exploration could lead to mining, and even the exploration itself could be invasive enough or cause potential for leaching, exposure, or who knows what's down there. My professional canons as a landscape architect, just like a surgeon's or a doctor's, is to do no harm. My canon, I think is 3, is to protect the public watershed. And doing this kind of exploration and mining in our drinking water source is not protecting the public watershed. I believe that the environmental assessment that's being planned is being paid for by a mining company, and the environmental company doing the EA is hired by the mining company, or at least a speculator for the mining company. This should be kicked all the way up to an EIS in order for this to fully constitute the rights that we all have as South Dakotans. This is a very important recreational area. It's an amazing fishery. I can go on and on about the importance of Pactola for tourism, for visitation. The value of this is significant. Let's not mess it up with some speculative mining that is probably potentially only going to award a few a little bit of money. There's a few things to consider as well. The EA would kick up the process to an EIS. This would require them to look at things like the long-eared bat, which is on the endangered species list and does have a propensity for drainages in the Black Hills. So let's oppose this as Rapid Cityans. There is a process in place for writing letters to the Forest Service. I'm just asking that those of you that have that kind of compassion for this, that we do something and act. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Justin Harriman. Harriman, did I get that?
Harriman.
Harriman.
Mr. Mayor and distinguished council members, I'm actually here to address the same thing as Mr. Hikas. I'm Justin Harriman from Protect Pactola. We're a recently formed, as of last week, grassroots organization, and we're committed to protecting our reservoir and Rapid City's water supply. F3 Gold LLC, which is a Minnesota exploration company, is seeking approval to drill 42 test holes, somewhere from 500 to 6,000 feet in the rock in Jenny Gulch and Sunnyside, which, if you know anything about the area, is Rapid City's watershed directly above Pactola Reservoir. Now, how is this a matter for the City Council? It's simple. We, the citizens of Rapid City, own 80% of that reservoir, and that's our drinking water. It's our municipal drinking water that we depend on every day. Now, the gold mining industry in the hills has a terrible environmental track record. We don't need another EPA Superfund site like Whitewood Creek. Now, exploration will lead to mining. There's no reason to conduct this exploratory drilling when any exploitation has the propensity to have such a profound impact on our community. Now, this is not an existential threat. This is real. What is the economic value of the drinking water for Rapid City, Box Elder, Ellsworth Air Force Base? That economic potential vastly outweighs any mineral resources that we might be extracted from that site. This is a bipartisan issue that affects everyone in this community, everyone, all of our families. Now, water really is important. You know, it truly is life. Without clean drinking water, we cannot grow our community and do the things that we want to see as a community. Our current water treatment plant actually does not have the ability to process and remove heavy metals and other significant chemical contaminants that might come in high concentrations from intake sources. What's the cost if we have to make that change? I don't know. I'm sure our city engineers can tell us. You know, we have water rationing now when we have drought situations. What happens if we lose 80% of our water? Think about the economic impact. It's not insubstantial. So, you know, the deleterious impacts that mining also has for, you know, our economy is significant. Pactola is a really important recreational area that we all value, and it literally brings thousands of tourist dollars to our communities. So what's the action that I'm asking for? We need a resolution from the City Council this evening against this exploration. We need to draw a line in the sand. I would also ask that the City of Rapid City as an entity submit an oppositional comment to the Forest Service prior to the February 5th deadline as a key stakeholder. Time is of the essence here. We need to have a full EIS. The EA process is not acceptable and doesn't meet the needs of our citizens. So how coincidental that we received that Aquarius Award this evening with this issue coming to the forefront. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Lilius Jarding.
Good evening, and congratulations to the city and the Public Works Department for your award. I'm glad to see this ongoing concern for water, because that's what I'm here to talk about. Like the two gentlemen before me, I am concerned about the potential for exploration and perhaps mining in the Rapid Creek watershed, which supplies all of the city's water between the creek and what runs underground that we pull out with wells from the creek. It also supplies Ellsworth Air Force Base, which makes this a national security issue. And I think that it's important that the City Council take action. These kinds of projects can be beat. I have seen a number of them in my lifetime where the public stands up and local government has a voice and projects are shut down. Now it's difficult because there's the 1872 mining law, and if you're not familiar with that, I would suggest you get some eyes on it. Because if anyone thinks this can't happen here, they don't know about the 1872 mining law, and they don't know about the mining industry. The mining industry is tenacious, and according to several publications that I've seen that are things like Forbes magazine, I think was one of them, it's one of the most corrupt industries in the world. So they need to be told up front, right away, that we oppose this, and I would encourage the council also to pass a resolution. The deadline of February 5th is a time before which anybody can comment, and if you have any questions, several of you know where to find me. I live in Ward 5, so thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list, Stephen Ferrugia. Come over to the podium so we can all hear you. I'm an expert at pronouncing names as long as Laura's right here to tell me how to do it.
I'm just here to, I believe, answer or field any questions that may come up. I believe our agenda or our topic is on the agenda for today. So I just filled that out to answer any questions. Should they come up?
Item 33.
Yes. 33.
So, yeah, well, we'll be handling that item here very shortly. So
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that'll conclude public comment, but we're going to, on item 14. I'm going to call on Councilwoman Becky Drury now for a moment of personal privilege.
Thank you, Mayor. I just came this afternoon from a meeting at the Rapid City Arts Council, and you may or may not know, but we have a new executive director at the Arts Council, and they are going to have a meet and greet for Robert Joyce. It will be February 6th from 4 to 6 p.m. over at the Doll, which is 713 7th Street. And I would just encourage everyone to come over and meet the new executive director, get to know him, see what his plans are for our future over there, and I think we have good things in store for us. So I would just invite you all to attend. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Now moving on to non-public hearing items, items 3 through 38. We'll open public comment on items 3 through 28 at this time, and we have one speaker request here from Lisanne Zeller.
Thank you. Good evening. Wow. Lisanne Zeller with the Rapid City Sustainability Committee. And just quickly, I'm here on behalf of the Rapid City Sustainability Committee to commend the Parks and Recreation Departments and the city's efforts for creating pollinator-friendly habitat in our community and for proposing this resolution before you tonight. The Sustainability Committee thinks this is a very important issue, and we wholeheartedly support you adopting this resolution. So thank you for pursuing this, Jeff and Melissa. I know I've been working on this at the Parks and Rec Department. And then just one final note, if there's anything that the Sustainability can do to support or help with this, we're here. Just reach out to us, and I know you know that. So that's all I have. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, that'll conclude the public comment on these items. And now on to consent items 3 through 28. Would the council like to approve all of these consent items, or would you like to pull some off for separate consideration? We'll go to Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to pull 10, 14, and 23, please.
Okay, are there any other items from other council members? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent items with the exception of 10, 14, and 23. Motion by Drury, second by Lehman. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Item 10, approve agreement between the City of Rapid City and Pyrotechnic Display for annual fireworks displays. And we'll go to Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I have a question on the budget for where the money is coming from for this item.
Okay, we have Parks Director Jeff Beegler here, who's going to tell you it comes out of the Park and Recreation budget.
Okay, well, it wasn't noted on our agenda, so it does come out of Parks and Rec?
Yes, this is a
Okay.
budgeted item within our operating budget.
Okay, it wasn't on our agenda, it
Apologies.
wasn't set out, so I didn't know if it was coming under the mayor's budget or just that was my main question.
Okay.
I think it's great that you're working to get this to come forward, and I know people love fireworks and celebrate the 4th of July, great patriotic holiday. I just didn't know where the money was coming from.
Good.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a motion on item 10, please? Motion to approve, Roberts, second by Armstrong. All in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. We'll go to item 14. Approve resolution number 2019-099 entitled "A Resolution of the City Council designating Rapid City as a B City USA affiliate." Back to Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve, and if I could get a second to retain the floor.
Okay, second by Lehman. Go ahead.
Thank you. May I direct another question to Mr. Beegler?
Please do.
Thank you again, Mr. Beegler. The one concern I have about becoming a bee city is when we spray for mosquitoes within town, how does that affect this?
Well, it can have some effect, and I don't know if you recall, a few years ago we had this issue, and we do have a pretty large community of bee activists. I don't know what you'd call them, but they expressed some concern about the fogging operation that we do during the mosquito season, and so we have reached out to that community and we let them know when and where we're going to be spraying on a particular evening. They know all the other members of their group, so they reach out and contact the groups. The spraying we do for the mosquitoes happens in the middle of the night when the bees are less active. And if they know when and where we're going to be fogging, they can cover up those hives and minimize any kind of impact that the spray might have on a bee.
Okay, so they're protected.
Correct.
That was my question. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a motion for approval on 14. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next on to item 23. Acknowledge the November 2019 sales tax report. Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. At least I'm whipping right through these. First of all, I would move to approve, and if I could receive a second and retain the floor.
Second from Armstrong. Go ahead.
Thank you. Tracy, I have a question for Finance Officer
Yes, Tracy Davis.
Tracy Days. Tracy, could you let us know, I know we're in January, when do we receive the numbers for December so we know how we did last year compared to 2018?
We expect to receive those the first part of February.
So we're always a good month behind?
Correct.
Okay. And that was kind of my question. I thought maybe we would have it by now, but
We have only received one payment for the December period, so we're waiting for the second one.
okay. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Hey, you.
Okay, Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. Follow-up question for Tracy there.
Yes.
Tracy, the report came back a little bit better than we expected. Is that correct for November?
That is correct.
Could you tell us what those numbers were as compared to last year?
So in percent, we're at 2.74%. In 2018, it was at 2.45%.
I know we don't really have any ideas or way to measure where this came in, why it's been boosted. Do you think it's got anything to do with the internet sales tax, or is that just out of your purview to even comment on that?
There really isn't a way that the state can show us what the additional revenue is from, so we can't necessarily attribute it to internet sales, but it certainly could have an effect on it.
But this is better than anticipated, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. That's good news.
Okay, we have a motion to approve 23. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us through the consent items and now on to non-consent items 29 through 38. We'll open public comment on those items. And we'll start with Kathy Johnson on item 34.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. My name is Kathy Johnson, and I'm here on behalf of my husband, Doyle Estes, and myself, and I'm speaking regarding the proposed TIF policy. I have one general comment and then a few specific concerns. And my general comment is that the policy does not appear to allow tax increment financing for public improvements within an area that is developing without TIF. Now, just consider the idea that's been floated of using the growing tax base in that area east of Elkvale to complete the 900 feet of Homestead Street, thus creating a direct route from the Valley View School and that residential neighborhood to Elkvale. In this case, the development underway will generate enough tax increment to finance the construction of the road. However, the development that's going on in that area does not depend upon TIF. My specific concerns begin on page 5 of the draft policy, as a section 4, paragraph 1, which states that the Public Works Department will manage the approval, design, and construction management of all public infrastructure projects within the district. This in itself is not a problem, but coupled with the caps on professional fees and construction contingency, it does raise a concern. And I assume that the costs beyond those caps will be borne by the developer. And this creates a situation where the developer is not involved on the expense side, but yet is expected to pay the bill. I mean, it seems to me like that's a little bit like a blank check, which is really not a workable situation. And in addition to, if Public Works leads to the low cost, the least cost project, then I don't even understand why caps on construction contingency and professional fees are needed. And I also don't understand the role of the developer in cost certification, since the city's already approved the costs and then managed those costs. My second concern is number 12. It's on page 9, performance measures and clawbacks. This allowance does not consider the unexpected changes in market conditions during the life of a TID. I mean, the recession of 2008 and 9, clearly showed us how quickly the economy can go into downturn. And from my perspective, throughout the TID process, the approval process, assumptions on how this development will unfold, they're agreed upon in good faith. And I believe that risk of unexpected changes through no fault of the developer, must be accepted by all parties. My third major concern is on page 18, which limits interest rates to no more than 1% above the prime rate. I'm no banker, but I suspect that 1% above prime is below market, which then, just by definition, is going to require the developer to participate in the cost of financing. And is that the intent here? And if it is, I think it should be explicitly stated. So just in closing, just to reiterate, Doyle and I respectively ask that you do, 1, consider allowing tax increment financing as a tool to pay for public infrastructure within a rapidly developing area, and then 2, consider our concerns on provisions of the policy that seem to increase the risk to the developer while decreasing the opportunity to manage those risks. Thank you.
Thank you. And on item 36, we have Deanna Beckett.
Good evening. I represent Livewell Black Hills, and you do have a letter attached for item 36. Livewell Black Hills exists to make the Black Hills healthier, safer, and more livable by encouraging sidewalk development for walkability and bikeability. Live Well Black Hills includes representatives from Parks and Rec, Monument Health, City Council, YFS, YMCA, Rapid City Area Schools, and many people around the area. We're asking you to vote against item 36. We want to be a community that promotes that walkability and bikeability. As part of the letter, I'm just going to reiterate, walkable neighborhoods tend to have higher property values, and they also decrease the risk of being involved in a car accident, the neighborhoods, people that are able to access sidewalks. Also, under the city's most recent bike and pedestrian master plan, which was 2011, which I know it's being remodeled, the City of Rapid City has its goals of promoting walking in Rapid City. So we want to ask you to support the sidewalks that will be developed in the future on Deadwood Avenue. This is going to encourage people to choose to walk or bike to work, or even walk or bike on breaks. There are many businesses in that area, not too many homes. But by starting with this one sidewalk in this particular area, this will move that slate forward in starting the sidewalks along that area. So again, just encouraging you to vote against item 36, which will encourage sidewalks to be started in the Deadwood Avenue area.
Thank you. And we'll close the public comment period on these items and then start with item 29 under ordinances. First reading, ordinance 6375, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Dream Design International for Yasmin Dream LLC for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to Light Industrial District for property generally described as being located south of North Valley Drive. Motion to approve by Modrick and a second by Drew. Okay. All in favor of that item, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 30, first reading, ordinance 6377, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, request by Dream Design International for Yasmin Dream 111 LLC for a rezoning request from medium density residential to general commercial district for property generally described as being located west of the current terminus of East Anamosa Street. Motion to approve by Drew and a second by Nordstrom. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 31, first reading, ordinance 6378, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Dream Design International for Yasmin Dream 11 LLC for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to Medium Density Residential District for property generally described as being located north of Homestead Street. Motion to approve Nordstrom, second by Roberts. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 32, first reading, ordinance 6379, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code, a request by Fisk Land Surveying and Consulting Engineers for Keats Larson for a rezoning request from General Agricultural District to Low Density Residential District for property generally described as being located west of the intersection of Hideaway Court and Hideaway Lane. Motion to approve by Drury and a second by Stroman. All in favor of approval say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 33, first reading, ordinance 6385, an ordinance amending section 17.06 of chapter 17 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. A request by Brent Hill for Seraphim Theatrical Entertainment LLC for a rezoning from medium density residential district to general commercial district, property generally described as being located at 1124 Kansas City Street. And we'll go to Darla Drew.
I had a couple questions for Mr. Fergia, if I could, please.
Yes.
Okay, so as I understand this, this is kind of a hybrid of church theater kind of thing, so maybe you could explain that a little bit more in detail to me.
Okay. Seraphim Theatrical Entertainment is a live performance theater for the Rapid City and surrounding area. And we are moving into what was formerly the YMCA church building, where they housed a lot of their youth programs. We are looking at also housing a local church as well in the facility.
And you were formerly in the Rushmore Mall, is that correct?
Correct. We spent 5 years there.
Do you expect to be renting your theater out to other entities while you're there?
Not in the foreseeable future, no.
Okay, I just, that's my ward, and I was just hoping to get a little bit more information because of the possibility of other things going in there that might not be acceptable to the neighborhood, because you're in a neighborhood, and that does
Right.
give me a little bit of concern.
Right. The submittal that we had put forward lists very clearly all the things that we do, including things that we do currently, as well as things that we look to do in the future. And outside of those things, we are not interested in anything else other than stuff that's already been supported throughout the Rapid City area.
Well, I have to say, congratulations. I am absolutely in favor of more arts and performing arts in Rapid City. So thank you for your efforts, and I will support this, but I just had to have some questions answered. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
Now we'll go to John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just need to abstain from this.
Okay. Item 33 needs a motion.
Motion approved.
Motion to approve Armstrong, second by Lehman. All in favor of this approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes with one abstention from John Roberts. Takes us to item 34. First reading ordinance 6310, an ordinance to update the tax increment financing district review processing by amending chapter 3.26 of the Rapid City Municipal Code. We'll go to Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to make a motion to send this back to the Community Development for further review and recommend that the mayor develop a task force to oversee and review this process.
Okay, second by Greg Stroman.
If I may retain the floor.
You can have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been visiting with several people, developers, city side, bankers included on all of this conversations. And the concern that is repeated by the developers is that as stated earlier, is by one of the developers coming forward is wanting to develop just a road. And under the current plan, they feel like the current draft plan is that they feel like they would not be able to develop a road with a TIF. Which is desperately needed for this area out in the east of Elkville Road. The recommendation is coming up with several different members for the task force, and I would encourage the mayor to take a look at those recommendations and appoint some of those people from a variety of experts within the community. As I feel like if we get the response back from them, and putting together a very workable plan for TIFs, I think this would be a process that needs to go forward. There's a lot of good things within this, but there's too many things that are bad within this policy or detrimental to development. So I'd like to see that instead of killing this, I would like to see this continue to enhance it. So we kind of, I call it raising the bar in what we can do for TIFs. Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield.
Okay, Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to support the motion to have it sent back, but I also want to tell the people in community planning that have worked on this, and I know they spent a lot of time. They've had several meetings with a lot of developers, that I appreciate the effort, because it was a direction from council for them to do something about the TIF policy, and they did it, and it's not that it's not appreciated. I just think it's not quite there yet. So, I yield.
Okay, thank you. Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. I also agree with our fellow council, as well as what came out of committee. I thought that there was great dialogue with committee. It was informative. It showed the leadership of council. Therefore, I want to make sure in this motion that the importance of sending this back and assigning task force, and I want to make sure that that's clear, that it's a responsibility to assign a task force to this, not just send it back, is extremely valuable in this motion. It's also important to make sure that the City Council is never removed from any process. We are the process of the people, and this should always have council on it, whether it's through process or through appeal. But there are some problems in that as well. Eliminating council is not the value to this community. It needs to be part of the community. Also, who needs to come to that table? It's been recommended many times. It's been recommended by those that actually are the investors investing in our community and building TIFs to build stronger with the only tool that we have. And we need to put at that task force table the actual developers, the bankers, the building industry. We need to have those that go through this process, whether they've gone through it 1 year, 2 year, or 20 years. Those are the expert side that makes us a balanced task force. And I truly say if we go only task force without the value of those that know what they're doing on that side, then we're going to end up in the same place that we are today. So with this motion and us reassigning it back, I just want to make sure that this is a clear motion, that that's a task force assigned by mayor and putting everybody at the table. That's how we make the best task force happen. And it doesn't need to be a small task force, and it doesn't need to be a huge task force, but it's got to be the players at the table in order to make this success. Thank you, and I do hope the motion maker intent is that same thing. Thank you.
Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor Allender. I have a question for Joel Landine, please.
Okay.
Joel, does this put us back under the same regulation of the TIF as we had before until we come up with a new policy under the new task force?
Yeah, until you adopt an alternative policy or amend the existing, we would still operate under the old policy.
So the developers that have projects in the hopper, so to speak, can go ahead and proceed as if no change has happened, because no change has happened.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor to send this back to community development for task force work. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 35 is a related item to 34. It's to approve Resolution 2019-015, adopting the Rapid City Tax Increment Financing Policy. I assume if it would be okay with the council, just to give it the same resolution as 34. So Mr. Nordstrom will make the same motion to send this back to community planning for task force work. Is that correct? Okay, well put. Do we have a second on that motion? Second by Becky Drury. All in favor of that motion say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 36, request from Semler Construction for a variance to waive the requirement to install sidewalk along Deadwood Avenue per City Ordinance 12-08-060. And we'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. On this item, I will be voting no. I would like to see the sidewalk installed. We have used the saying in the past that there's no sense in building a sidewalk to nowhere. However, it is my contention that it will someday be a sidewalk to somewhere. And if we stop making it a variance for people, then we will indeed have sidewalks. So I'll be voting no on this.
Thank you. Lisa Modrick.
Thank you, Mayor. There's no sense in building sidewalks to nowhere. I'm one of those that quotes that quite regularly. I believe it, I see it, I go on site, and I acknowledge it by that as well. We've talked about Deadwood Avenue before. There's a false pattern that looks like it's a path, an actual pedestrian path when in fact a lot of salts and debris and other things go along that that grassy area and create a path that looks worn when it is not a path of people. It's an industrial area. It puts a burden on this area by calling in a sidewalk when they've already got a safe zone to be in there. Eventually, Deadwood Avenue will go under construction like Mount Rushmore Road did, and at that time, we're going to see infrastructure, sidewalks, street lamps, modernized street lamps. We're going to see the infrastructure go in, and at that point, that would be the right time. But to pick and choose and wait for a business to want to make a change, like putting a shed behind their property so that they can expand what product they've got, is the wrong reason to put a sidewalk in. It doesn't give anybody any walkability. It certainly doesn't do anything for any of the side businesses. It may actually deter a business from going out and getting a permit in order to do something similar because their business is growing and they need to put something on their backside of their property. And this is one of those reasons why we have the right to waiver. It doesn't fit in any mold. It is not a neighborhood. It is truly a commercial industrial area that hasn't been designed by design as a walkability or a rideability area. So we want to put this burden on a business without having a purpose truly to do so, except to say that we want a sidewalk. And that creates also maintenance for that business owner, as well as if there's anything that happens to that sidewalk, they go on an ongoing expense. It's not going to stop with that. So this isn't the place to call this in. It's not the place to start, and it's the wrong example we would be making.
Okay, Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor. I would like to make a motion to deny it if I could get a second and retain the floor.
Second by Nordstrom. Go ahead.
Thank you. I used to work out in that area, and it's almost impossible to even ride your bike to work because there's nowhere to ride your bike except in that heavy traffic, which is scary to say the least. And even though we're asking them to put it in now, the sidewalk would cost less now than it would if we would call it in later. So the business would be ahead of the game to go ahead and put the sidewalk in now. And we want people to be healthy and to walk and bike to work. We have a bike to work day, but it's almost impossible. There are a lot of people out there that I think would bike or walk if they could. But we keep giving everybody out there a variance to say, nope, you don't have to have a sidewalk, so why we aren't even encouraging them to do so. I yield. I think we just need to stop doing this and allow our city to grow healthily.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. I also support the motion to deny this waiver, primarily because some of the examples that we've been presented with, I like to pick on Mount Rushmore Road because sidewalks are already there. We don't have sidewalks here in this location. Whereas if we get sidewalks in later on, it's going to be much more expensive. Plus, if the state comes in or the city has to come in and do any development out there for the road reconstruction, the taxpayers have to pick that up. I don't think that's fair to the taxpayers to have to do that responsibility for somebody else's need or should be required to install a sidewalk. We've also conducted a walk audit. It's a very short, brief report that shows that the need for sidewalks in various areas of the city. And we also asked the Public Works Department to come forward and give us a presentation on the areas that are in need of sidewalks. And this is one of those primary areas that are in need, definite need of a sidewalk. Also, we can also demonstrate in this area that we have demand trails, or I call them people paths, but the official name is called demand trails. That we see them up and down this road. So people are using the edges of this road for some reason. And so with all of those needs out there, I can definitely see the need for additional sidewalks. And we've got to start someplace. So for me, this is not a sidewalk to nowhere. It is a sidewalk that's going to get startup for other additional sidewalks. Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield.
Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. Mrs. Drury and Mr. Nordstrom made points for me, so I will keep this short and sweet. I've been on council now going on 3 years, and off the top of my head, I can think of at least 6 requests to waive these requirements along North Plaza Drive and Deadwood Avenue. We would have at least 6 more sidewalks. I agree, we need to just call this in, get it done. Nothing against the business, but if there is a requirement to do this, we need to stick with this. This piecemealing and this checkerboarding is just not good city business. It is not fiscally responsible, and I will vote along with this. Thank you. I yield.
John Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I sit on the other side of the people that have been talking here, except for Councilwoman Modrick. I also agree that I don't think it's the time to call one in. You know, this council has the power. We can call them all in. We could call all of Deadwood Avenue in. So if you really want to make a difference, let's buck up and let's call them all in at one time. But
Motion to call all the items in by Roberts.
But I will vote against it. But we can call it up.
Okay, sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead.
But you know, when you're calling in 50 businesses sidewalks, that's when we get 50 people in this room that are upset about calling 50 sidewalks in. One, okay, fine, you're going to call one sidewalk in. What's going to stop us 2 months from now when there's a different, or 6 months from now when there's a different makeup on the council for giving a variance then? So my question to this council is, if you really want to make a difference, start calling them in by the droves. Bring them in where you think you need them, you know? So anyway, I don't think it's the right time. I don't think that, you know, making one person do this, you know, you brought up the 6 that we didn't call in. You know, now all of a sudden we're going to call another one in, or we're going to make this person put it in. So where's the fairness? Where's the, you know, it boggles my mind how we can even do this and not consider doing all of them, you know? Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, and we will go back to Lisa Modrick.
For 2 seconds?
2 minutes. 2 minutes and 20 seconds.
Yes. Because certainly 6 variances over the course of 3.5 years is nothing when you calculate it out to all the development and all the walkability places that are happening. We don't get to see those numbers. What we get to see is the ones that have a variance request. Most of them have a valid reason for a variance request. The burdensome on a company, a landowner, a homeowner is tremendous. If all of a sudden you've got a crack in your sidewalk and now you've got to spend thousands of dollars that maybe you don't have in the bank to repair your neighborhood sidewalk in front of you, you're going to feel like coming down here and asking for a variance until you've got an opportunity to do that. The biggest statement that was made tonight was by Councilman Roberts. This is where this council misses the boat. You either variance when it doesn't have a place to go, or you brave up and you put them all in. And I've heard this from another council member that's been retired now, but that's the challenge that this council has. At what point are you going to put that forward than to pick and choose who you want to tax on and put that kind of expense on that is truly not necessarily to enhance the business, the growth, or what we're doing, and that's to build our community and enhance our community and bring them in and let them invest and reinvest in their product over putting a sidewalk to nowhere in. Again, look at what this one is for. It's to put a growth building on it. It's not to rebuild the entire structure that's in front of it. And they have done a beautiful job with what they've done. It was presented to you at committee that they've already got asphalt and rock barriers to make a safety area. They've gone beyond the extra mile. That we need to reward them for, not punish them for, and force them to tear up and put in something that's not going to be used. You don't know with your crystal ball if it's going to be built on either side in our lifetime. The only way you're going to know that is if you call it in. I don't dare you, but I think that's the right thing to do.
Okay, back to Laura Armstrong.
Thank you, Mayor. May I direct a question to Mr. Tech?
Yes, please.
Mr. Tech, this initially came to our Public Works with a recommendation to deny. Could you explain to me or to us why?
Certainly. Staff receives these variances and considers them all. There have been a number that staff has recommended approval on, primarily if the roadway is a rural road section and there are topographic reasons to not construct a sidewalk. However, Deadwood Avenue, in this particular instance, as well as many other along this corridor, they don't check those boxes. It's a urban road section that was made to have sidewalks installed along it. There are no topographic or grade reasons to for staff to recommend denial. So the current ordinance that we have in place is a valid ordinance, and I guarantee you that if you follow that ordinance, eventually every place would have sidewalk.
Would you happen to know the data of how many people who request these variances?
I don't have that right off the top of my head.
Okay. All right, I yield. Thank you.
Okay, Darla Drew.
No, I just have a couple of minutes. Do I have another question for Dale Tech, please?
Yes.
So Dale, I guess, help my memory here. The state is going to be doing some improvements along Deadwood Avenue that might include sidewalks, and that would, of course, increase the viability of bike paths.
The state of South Dakota has a project on the books to reconstruct Omaha Street. Part of that will be the intersection of Deadwood Avenue. I believe that at the terminus of Deadwood Avenue at Omaha Street, when they rebuild that intersection, they'll be installing some sidewalk there, certainly not along the whole corridor, just within the limits of their construction project.
Okay, thank you. That helps me a lot. I do still stand by my original contention that these will be sidewalks to somewhere. And when you pull a permit, you are actually saying that you'll put in a sidewalk. So these variances that people ask for are saying, well, we don't want to comply with that rule, so we're going to ask that it be, it be overlooked in our particular case. When we're talking about sidewalks heaving and all these things happening in the meantime before the rest of the sidewalks come in, there's a word for that. It's catastrophizing. It's making everything seem like it just can't work because of all these catastrophes that may happen or not. So I'm going to stick with my original contention that we're going to have sidewalks to somewhere, and we're going to have them out in the Deadwood Avenue area, and that is my ward. It's Laura's ward, and we won't be exactly popular for demanding these things, but I think for the overall benefit of the city, we are looking at the well-being of how we grow and how we expect people to get to work, and also saving our roads by using walking or bikes. Thank you.
And Becky Drury.
Thank you, Mayor, and I like to ditto everything that's been said for the denial of the variance. The other thing that I would like to reiterate is we have a lot of variance requests. And we are not city staff, we are not engineers. These rules are in place for a reason. And I also think that sometimes we're almost micromanaging city business by allowing these things. When people put in these requests to put in a business, that's their cost of doing business. And if they don't have to pay for it, sooner or later, we all get to pay for it when we allow variances. Plus, I'm going to reiterate, I used to work out there, and it's darn near impossible to even ride a bike to work when you're trying to get up Deadwood Avenue. And it stinks to try to walk it. It's terrible. And so I just think, just for the safety of citizens, we should be putting these sidewalks in. Thank you. I yield.
Okay, a motion on the floor is to deny the variance. All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Roll call, please. Turn your microphones on, if you wouldn't mind, please.
Lehman,
No.
Drury,
Yes.
Drew,
Yes.
Nordstrom,
Yes.
Modrick,
No.
Roberts,
No.
Stroman,
No.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Okay, chair votes yes.
Broke the tie.
Well, the motion to deny passes on item 36. On to Legal Finance Committee items 37, award contract to Cadel Thorstensen to perform the financial and compliance audit for the City of Rapid City for the calendar year 2019. Motion to approve by Drew and second by Stroman. And we'll go to Darla Drew.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to thank the Finance and Compliance group. I don't know what you call yourselves. But, yeah, you know, this was the right thing to do, to go and award this to... Don't laugh at me, Richie Nordstrom. Excuse me, Councilman Nordstrom. That this was the right thing to do, to keep it in the city for a while. I know you were having some issues, and you're working those out, and I really appreciate and applaud your work on this, and I'm glad that it's staying in Rapid City for now. Thank you.
Hi. Oh, yeah, Drew was here. Okay, we have a motion to approve. Okay, I'm back. We have a motion to approve. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Community development items 38, a request by Renner Associates LLC for Fox LLC for a preliminary subdivision plan for proposed Lot 6 and 7 of Moon Ridge subdivision, generally described as being located at 2251 Moon Meadows Drive, and the committee recommendation was to approve with stipulations. Modrick makes the motion to approve a stipulation. Roberts seconds. All in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item 39, we have no public hearing requests for items in this category, so we will start with 39, which is alcohol license, Sodako Incorporated, doing business as Comfort Suites, 1333 North Elkvale Road, for a retail on-sale liquor license transfer. Motion to approve Modrick, second by Roberts. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. In the bill list, item 40 will go to Assistant Finance Officer Tracy Davis.
There are no additions to the bill list, so as it's presented to you, the total amount is $10,113,849.70.
Motion to approve Nordstrom, second by... Okay, good enough. Was that a second by Drew? We have, and Becky Drury will be abstaining from the vote on the bill list. All in favor of approval of the bill list, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes with one abstention. Motion to adjourn by Armstrong. Second Drury. All in favor, say aye. We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.